Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 20 of Scientology Chat. Today we're going to be talking about substance abuse and Scientology's role in that. Um, Not too much to update since last week's episode. Nothing was flagged for copyright infringement, so I guess we kept the clips of the South Park episode short enough for it to be considered fair use. I tried to follow the guidelines on that as best as I could, although there was a lot of room for everything to be open for interpretation from what I was seeing. Um, there's two main aspects to what we're going to talk about today, where as far as it relates to substance abuse and the Church of Scientology, kind of going to talk about it in two ways. Actually using Scientology processes for if you have somebody close to you who has a substance abuse problem, and then things like Clear Body, Clear Mind and Narcanon, where an actual program developed by the Church of Scientology for the purpose of helping people get through substance abuse. The first part would be like I think if you haven't heard the story, I mean, I have had problems with alcohol abuse basically since I was 17 years old, probably even earlier than that. Um, uh, like, the whole way that I originally found Dianetics in the first place was that I had gotten, I think I got a minor in possession, is what it was called. It was either minor in possession or minor in consumption or something like that, of alcohol. And I got put on probation and was given community service, and I served that community service at St. Vincent de Paul, the thrift store, and that was while I was there, and they were making me alphabetize books, dust things inside the jewelry case, this, that, and the other. I found an old copy of Dianetics that was for sale for like a dollar, and wound up buying it, and that started like this whole journey. And that would have been, I think that was just over 10 years ago now. Oh no, that would have actually been about 13 years ago. I wouldn't consider myself to have become a Scientologist until 10 years ago. That was when I was reading Dianetics, that older book and everything, but I didn't really become a Scientologist until just over 10 years ago now, when I first actually started getting in touch with organizations within the church. I bought a new copy of Dianetics directly from Bridge, and that began my communication via email and text message with different people inside the church. And so from there, that's how I wound up founding my first field group. That's when I first started getting involved with like I Help West US, the organization that connects and like sort of kind of manages all of the independent field Dianetics groups out there. So that's the point where I consider myself to have become a Scientologist. I started to go to events and things like that, where like this interfaith councils and things like that, to talk about religious interpretations of different things, and Dianetics in particular. You probably picked up on it that I would consider myself to be a Scientologist because I do believe, from my experience, that the idea of a Thetan, the idea of Scientology reincarnation, the creation of Theta, the creation of human ability, I have personally experienced through replicating the steps in those books, my results that have made me start to say that I am a Scientologist. So, excuse me. The So that's how it all started. And so even when I first started using Dianetics as a tool all the way back then, I it's hard whenever you do any kind of self-help program, which I would say to an extent Dianetics is, because the most important goal that you have when you're trying to use a program like this to be able to help other people is that the most effective way that you can help other people, even though it's sort of cliche um, and I think a lot of people feel like they get the most out of a program, out of the most help out of helping others, or at least a lot of people do. But the most effective way that we can help others, especially with things like Dianetics and Scientology, is to help ourselves first so that we can be the high point on the tone scale to lift others up with us. And so, sorry, it is so hot in Utah lately that my throat has like dried out on me. The air is so dusty and shit. Um, give me one sec. There we go. I had to mute. I didn't want you to hear that one. um, even as I got started in Dianetics, I fell into that category. I was already starting to do co-auditing with other people. This was actually the very thing that was used against me in the Church of Scientology that wound up me being made into a persona non grata for the org that I was going to. Um, I was co-auditing with my Dianetics group, working with all these different people that I was meeting, including an auditor that I had been introduced to through iHelp in Spokane, Washington. And I was learning how to do auditing. I have read Dianetics from cover to cover an inordinate amount of times. It's almost depressing, but every time I reread it, I feel like I'm relearning or re-remembering something new or a new way of looking at different things as it relates to auditing or Ingrams or different things to that effect. I've noticed it seems like a lot of people are focused on seeing the end of the bridge and sprinting to try to get to the end of the bridge, and once they complete something, they go on to the next thing. I mean, Scientology is structured in that way with the bridge and the guide to the materials and everything, but Dianetics is the book that started it all, so without that and everything in it, nothing else would exist. And so I guess my focus on using Dianetics as like the fundamental item that shapes a great deal of my life and the way that I work with people and try to help people is fundamentally related to that, of it being the for lack of a better word that I can think of right now, it being the genesis of everything related to Scientology and what it can do to help people. So I fell into that same category where instead of focusing on myself, I mean, I actually rolled my eyes when the person who was my contact in the Sea Org, who was helping me navigate from, hundreds of miles away when I first got started, she was trying to tell me that before I get too focused on my groups and trying to help people of whatever walks of life, that I should focus a lot of my energy on my own courses and to do like self-analysis or handbook for pre-clears so that I could do, like I just said, be the high point on the tone scale. Because as we've talked about on this show before, we are a product of our environment, and the people we surround ourselves with either lift us up the tone scale or pull us down the tone scale. And if I'm a 1.8 on the tone scale and I'm trying to help somebody who's a 1.4 on the tone scale, I can't lift them up as high as I would be able to if I had worked on myself and felt confident in saying that I'm, a 3.2 even on the tone scale. So that's a big part of why, if you want to help people with substance abuse problems, and this doesn't even just go for Scientology. I mean, I've seen more substance abuse counselors and had to do more substance abuse counseling, substance abuse evaluations, and all that crap that was court ordered for me. I mean, probably legitimately, I think 16 times. Because when I was living in my car back where I'm from, um, I mean, I was drinking all the time, and the police knew where I was living. I was living in my car, like I said in a previous episode, between a storage unit facility and a campground. So it didn't take a rocket scientist for them to figure out where I was. I saw the same judge in Kootenai County, Idaho, so many times that he eventually stopped sentencing me to anything. And one time he actually sentenced me to just write him letters to tell him how I was doing. I mean, that's how many times he had seen me. But anyway, um, that concept of having to help yourself to help others is definitely a major factor across all the different walks of however you're trying to help people with substance abuse evaluations. I mean, they'll tell you that in AA too. I've been listening in on some of those classes while I've been doing my weekends, and I've heard a very similar sentiment coming from them where, it sounds selfish, but you have to focus on yourself. Even if it's at the expense of some of the relationships around you, a healthy you will always do more good and be more helpful to the people around you than the unhealthy you, no matter how hard you try. And I I need to tell him to word that, because how I just worded it, it was better than how they were wording it, but in my opinion. But um, yeah, so as we get started, this is one of the things, I've read I've got some feedback that it feels like I'm trying to sell people on these materials. But if you have substance abuse problems of your own, or you want to use or attempt to use some of these materials to help others, the best place to start is going to be self-analysis. Even if you don't have the problem yourself, doing self-analysis yourself and knowing how the book is structured, how it works, getting good at the recall exercises, and building up your own perceptions for those exercises helps you in general, no matter what, helps you lift yourself up the tone scale, but it also helps you be able to relate as you describe and help somebody else walk through the process too. And so that is, when I finally decided to get serious, I had acknowledged that I had a serious problem with alcohol. Not just in the consumption of it, but the way that the deterioration of everything around me in my life that was going downhill with that I would say was being accelerated by alcohol, but I wouldn't say that alcohol was some mysterious force that was somehow finding its way into my blood system. I don't personally believe in the easy way out, and that's one of the things I don't like about AA, because of the way that they frame their mantra around. I'm pretty sure I can't remember verbatim, but I'm like 99% sure that in the AA meeting, they literally say that I am powerless over alcohol or something to that effect. And that, to me, is bullshit. I think that people often sell themselves short, and they attribute their own accomplishments through their own effort to things that don't deserve the credit. Like, you should get the credit for overcoming your addiction, but not at the expense of taking credit for you having it in the first place. It can be done. There is no addiction that you cannot overcome with finding people around you and the correct support system, and if you have the medical treatment, whatever. You still deserve the credit for taking the steps to get yourself clean, but you don't get to absolve yourself of the steps you took to find yourself in that position in the first place. No matter how fucked up your life may be, hurt people hurt people. That's a very common phrase, but the bad experiences that we have in our past don't excuse the bad experiences that we create for others in our present and our future. We have to accept that and deal with it. So, cat running amok. Um, yeah. So the first step with substance abuse for me, when I finally got to that point, was self analysis. And I used it for the first way that I used self analysis, and I had already, like I said, I already understood and knew Dianetics. You don't need to read Dianetics to use self analysis because self analysis is a much easier book to read than Dianetics, that's for sure. But um, the knowledge of Dianetics, knowing what I was doing and why, I think that played a factor in why it helped in my substance abuse problems, was because I knew that in the recall exercises that I was running while doing self analysis, I was looking for specific things after I got comfortable with the topics in the book. And when I first started, I decided to start a little bit easier. And I worked my way through the earliest instances where I could recall drinking. Um, and then I would write on a piece of paper what perceptions I was going to focus on. So, like the ones that we've talked about, sonic recall, visio recall, kinetic recall, blah blah blah. So I was writing those down and focusing on them, going over these over and over and over again. And if you've ever had a bad experience with drinking or a horribly embarrassing experience while drinking or something stupid happened like that to you, you probably can relate because I see people joke about this all the time. You can be completely minding your own business, laying in bed at night, watching videos on YouTube or Facebook or watching TV or something, and out of nowhere, the memory of some embarrassing shit that you've done in your life creeps into your mind, and you basically, you get embarrassed all over again. You can feel the knots in your stomach. When that happens, you are literally getting keyed in. You're experiencing almost the entire process of what an engram does to you when you're being keyed in and you're unaware, whether it's something like the faucet running or the sound of a car horn or even for some people it can be a specific song. There's like taste recall. People always say that I threw up spaghetti when I was a kid, and now because of that, I can never eat it again. Or with alcohol, in my own experience, I drank so much fruit punch for loco it made me so incredibly ill that still to this day I cannot drink anything fruit punch. These are different examples of the entire thesis that Dianetics is based on. These are common real world examples of exactly what Dianetics is explaining is happening to you in different scenarios, but the result and the process is exactly the same. So, working your way through these kinds of things, like in my case, it was doing these exercises for drinking. And for drinking. And through the process, I found that the want to drink just kept going away. When I was never like a consistent alcoholic. I didn't drink every day. I was what would be considered a binge drinker. When I did drink, and I did drink frequently, I would drink to excessive amounts. It was never a drink here, a drink there. I used to always say alcohol tastes like shit no matter what, so there's no reason to drink it other than to get shit faced. So that was my mentality. And as the desire or the loneliness even from a lot of my friends and my social structure was built around alcohol. People knew me and wanted to hang out with me for the purpose of drinking. And so as I pulled myself away from that, the negative effects that came from stopping drinking reached farther into different aspects of my life than I had anticipated it to. And the desire to drink slowly turn from wanting to be drunk to not wanting to wanting to drink to be drunk to wanting to drink to not be alone. And as I continued to do self-analysis, it was, in a way, it was like, it not only helped me not have cravings, because similar to what I told you about smoking cigarettes, I would do recall exercises of certain good things, and it would make the desire to smoke or drink go away. It would make me feel better and feel less lonely. And as I worked my way back through all of these instances of drinking and got to the point of before I was drinking, it was almost like I was rediscovering the person I was, that I had lost for 15 for not 15, I'm not that old, for 8+ years of my life. That the person that I had, that was like swallowed up by the person that I became back when I was 16 years old. That high school student was swallowed up. Everything that they liked to do, the person they were, their individuality was lost as the partying and the drinking and everything took over. And it's not an easy process, especially to do on your own. I mean, it was messy, and I screwed up many times. I didn't just decide one day, snap, I'm done drinking, doing self-analysis, and I never fucked up again. Obviously, that is not the case, or I would not be where I am right now with dealing with these weekends. But nothing in life is easy, and I don't want to say it's one of those things where the more work, the greater the reward, because it's not really a reward to, I mean, if you dig yourself into a pit, digging yourself back out of it isn't exactly discovering treasure. But normalcy can be a reward to those who haven't experienced it in a long enough time, I would say. Enough of a reward, at least. Or at least a checkpoint. A checkpoint while you're making your way towards the end goal, which in my case would be release or clear. So that's why I wanted to say that, like, the first place to start has got to be self-analysis. I'll preach that until my dying day. Like, I will espouse the values of Dianetics and all of the books under that particular umbrella of Scientology in particular until the day I die. Yeah. until the day that my next cycle begins, we'll say. So, with substance abuse, that's like the first. Oh, and like I was telling you in a previous episode, my sister, who also struggles with addiction of her own. I have two sisters, each of whom struggle with addiction in their own way. One of whom is not ready to get better. The other one is, and she has been doing self-analysis. We talk about it. She has her book and all it, and I'm very, very proud of her for that. I would be proud of her no matter what method she used, as long as she was able to get better. Whatever path it takes you in your life to be able to get over and escape the clutches of addiction, at the risk of how stupid that sounds when you are somebody who has an addiction, I gladly support you. I don't care if you don't use anything in Scientology, so long as you're using something and it's actually working for you. Whether it's a fake it till you make it, a placebo effect, or it's genuinely helping you. Whatever you have to do, I completely support it. And with my sister as well. I recommended to her that she use self-analysis because it works for me, and I wanted it to, and my hope was that it would work for her. Something's only true if it's true for you. So I wanted I wanted her to read the book, not just hear me talk about it, not just have me walk her through it. She had to do it herself. She has to continue doing it herself so that she can interpret those materials and use the exercises in the ways that best fit her. If it was Dianetic auditing, or that would not be the case. But for self-analysis, I mean, she's open to, unless it's a definition. I told her if she does, the misunderstood word, it says it at the beginning of the book. I made her take a highlighter and highlight that because the importance of not skipping a misunderstood word cannot be overstated. And I didn't want her to get disheartened or disgruntled or something on the off chance that it really did help her, which it does seem to be doing. So, and that same thing, falling off the wagon. There has to be a room for forgiveness, but at the same time, forgiveness does not have to be forgiveness on its own. I can forgive somebody for screwing up and making a mistake and falling off the wagon, but that doesn't mean that we're just going to ignore that it happened. It needs to be addressed, and you don't need to be belittled or by any means, but there has to be some kind of an in-place structure in the program that you're doing to be able to work through what happened and why and get to the core of why you did it in the first place and accept real responsibility. Not just say, I did it because my wife pissed me off. I did it because the work made me depressed, or I did it because alcohol has a control or a power over me. It has to be genuine responsibility. And I had to deal with that and swallow that. And let me tell you, that was a very fucking hard pill to swallow. I wanted to blame it on living in my car and drinking because it was cold. I wanted to blame it on my family structure. I wanted to blame it on my grandma for what happened. Blame it on the kids at high school who were a bunch of dicks. I wanted to blame it on everybody. But and that made it easier for me to continue to do it. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, I put it into my own mouth. I drank it. I continued to drink it. I stumbled and found myself on a path because of my own free will. And then every step that I took on that path, I took on my own and under my own power, not fueled by anything but my own desire to keep doing it. And my desire to keep doing it may have been to escape those things, but I did it myself. So that's the pill we have to swallow, and that falling off the wagon instance while dealing with substance abuse also ties into Dianetics and self-analysis, because when you fall off the wagon, as I did, you have an opportunity, if you're going to be honest with yourself and if you really want to get better, to be able to open your book, look at your perceptions, or go see your auditor and sit down and recall what happened when you fell off the wagon. Start at the beginning, pick up as much data as you can provide, and go. Everything. And you could even find your key in from that. There can be the silver lining in the darkest moments, can be you fall off the wagon after 2 years of struggling sobriety, and in that instance you are able to be audited, and what we find out your key in that may make you more susceptible to wanting to relapse. And that's that same kind of thing. Don't misunderstand me on this. Your engram may be based off of a previous experience that keys you in and leads you to do something that you shouldn't do, but at the same time, you are the one doing it. So we have to match personal responsibility here. The reactive mind may be stupid and see everything as A equals A equals A, but it's still your mind. It's your mind, and you are the one doing it. So that's what I had to keep. The more I learned about Dianetics, that's what I had to be to constantly remind myself every time I found myself trying to ascribe blame to someone else. So, that pretty much, that's what you can create a plan for this kind of thing. I never did when I was working on it for myself, but in a way I did with my sister, to sort of try to create a list of recall exercises for her to do in the context of self-analysis that I believed would be able to help her navigate it and make her journey as as I'm trying to think of the word. It's the opposite word of steep, but I can't remember. To make her journey as pleasant as possible, to make the walk up the hill less arduous, to make point A to point B at a low grade. That's as close to the word I was trying to think of as I can, but it's not the one I was intending. But and that kind of leads us into clear body, clear mind, and Narconon. Now, I don't want to go too much into Narconon because we are still going to have somebody on the show who's going to talk about their experience with Narconon. Everything's kind of screwy while I try to navigate everything on the weekends, because of course that's the time that most people want to come on the show, and that's a real issue. But I guess that over time we only have 5 more months to go worth of weekends before we can really take things to the next level. But until then, I guess we can keep if we can make it work sooner rather than later, that would be great. But if not, we'll figure it out. But with clear body, clear mind and the purification rundown, I've said before, I never did a purif. I wanted to, but I never did, because when I was at the org, there was nobody to twin with me for the purif. The Div 6 director was actually considering doing it with me, but she was by the time she was planning on doing her purif, everything between me and the church had already happened, so the opportunity had slipped through my grasp. I still have clear body, clear mind, and I'll give you a couple examples of how I personally use it. First, niacin. I'm going to just preface this right out the gate and say that niacin does not protect you or expel radiation from you. L. Ron Hubbard, believing that to be the case at the time that he experienced it, because normal niacin, if it doesn't have the anti-reddening agent in it, makes you very red. His experience of what could be causing that makes total sense. If I didn't know the chemical composition was what was causing it to happen, and that was related to blood flow, the idea that people would be taking this and it would appear to recreate their own, to recreate sunburns as it's pushing radiation out of you, that makes sense to me in that context. The reality is that that's not true. I mean, there are limits to what something is only true if it's true for you means. It doesn't mean that we can continue to pretend that niacin expels radiation from you, or when it doesn't. But it does clear your body of toxins. So I can give you some examples of that. L. Ron Hubbard's favorite example that he would give is that people would taste Novocaine in their mouth as they took niacin, and it would clear clearing your bodies of toxins. I shit you not, that is real. I so distinctly remember when I first started to take niacin and follow the guide to doing it. The amount of crap that came out of my body was like a revelation. I could, like he said, I could taste I could taste the crap in my mouth, and I would wear those sticky pads on the bottom of your feet, and you could see the toxins come out. It's like when they have I can't remember what it was called. There was some kind of thing where basically, if you get into a sauna, you can put these things on the bottoms of your feet and the bottoms of your palms, and you can see how much crap comes out of it. And so, I mean, that was the case. If you've ever had a substance abuse problem and had to take a UA test, I mean, everybody knows that is what niacin is for. I mean, everybody who smokes pot and has ever had to take a UA for work or a UA for their probation officer will gobble down niacin like it's nobody's business if they are afraid that they're not going to piss clean. So the niacin does work in that way. And so I take niacin regularly, and then I also take vitamin B6. Um, L. Ron Hubbard, B6 is related not just to Clear Body, Clear Mind, but to Dianetics in general. B6 is for your helps to a lot with like mood stability, mental stability, memory, things that are important to Dianetics and your well-being. So I take that as well. Other than that, there's not too much that you can do with Clear Body, Clear Mind if you don't have somebody who's walking you through like the entire process. Because I mean, the entire book of Clear Body, Clear Mind is yeah. The entire book of Clear Body, Clear Mind is 170 pages, and even that's a bit of an exaggeration because several of the pages just contain illustrations or contain personal testimonial stories and things of that nature. So you could probably knock another 15 to 20 pages off of that. The book mainly tells you about what to do, what to eat. I mean, it's the structure of the book definitely helps, and it is what they use in. I can't say that they use it in every case, but it is the basis of the Narcanon program, and it can be used even if you are not struggling with addiction. I mean, purification. We all have crap stuck in our bodies. I mean, the sugar, the fat, the cholesterol. I mean, the niacin isn't just used for clearing your body of toxins. It also helps for heart health and I want to say, I can't remember if off the top of my head if it's cholesterol or if it's like blood clots. I can't remember for sure, but there are other effects to niacin that aren't related to things in Scientology, just general things about what niacin does and how it functions in the human body. So the Clear Body, Clear Mind is a good book in general. It's a very short book, but yeah, if you can do a purif, just make sure that you do it under close supervision. Never try to do a purif on your own. Don't let yourself get in the sauna. Don't let yourself do the vitamin schedule. Don't try to do it on your own, please. I mean, even popping two niacin and doing a good deal of. This is what I would personally recommend. I'm no doctor. If you consult with a physician before doing anything that I say, if you have any mental ailments or don't know if you're allergic to certain things, or if you have an overabundance or a chemical imbalance in your body to begin with, I would personally recommend popping two niacin, one vitamin B6, a shitload of water when you take the pills. I mean, I think it's a 64-ounce water thing. I chug the whole thing after I take my pills. And then exercise. I personally do, as if it could be any more apparent of my sexual orientation, but when I exercise, I like to play Just Dance, or Dance Dance Revolution, and that I work up a significant sweat. We'll just put it that way. And so, whatever different kind you do, whether it's running, jogging, etc., etc. So niacin, B6, a lot of water, exercise, and then self-analysis. Like I've said a million times, you can get that book for $3 on Amazon. Put it to the test for yourself and find out if it helps you or not. So, and that exact same kind of thing of using clear body, clear mind and using those kinds of structures helps with self-analysis, helps a great, and Dianetics, helps a great deal with substance abuse. You break down all of the engrams, you can find your key-ins, you can work through the original causes that you feel contribute to your desire to drink. Does not make you drink, but you contribute to your wanting to drink, or use drugs in general. But finally, nothing works. None of the most powerful tools on earth to help you get through substance abuse. None of those are going to work if you don't have the desire to get better. Every weekend I meet people who are, the last time I was, not this last weekend, but not the weekend before, the person who I was in with was telling me how much they couldn't wait to get out so that they could go back to using fentanyl. They had been in jail for 95 days at that point, I believe. Been in there for over 3 months. Finally got through all the bullshit. They would tell me that they can finally dream again. They can go through all of this stuff. They're clean, and that was all they talk about. When I get out, the first thing I'm gonna do is go to such and such place and use drugs. And I mean, that's their prerogative. If they're not hurting anybody but themselves, I guess I can't say much on that. But at the end of the day, as much as I want to help, I'm not going to waste effort that could be otherwise used on somebody who wants to get better, because there are many. That example, there are a lot of people in the system who want to get better, and there are a lot of people in the system who can't wait to get out and go right back to what they were doing before. I was a perfect example of the latter case for the good first half of my life, of my time dealing with criminal shit. So, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I do have something exciting. I have some stickers gonna give out just for free. We have 15 of them. If you would like one of the stickers, it's first come, first serve. Send an email to scientologychat.podbean.com. We're gonna give away all 10 of them to the first 10 people. Just reach out, scientologychat@gmail.com. Reach out there, say you would just put sticker as the subject line. Let me know where you want to send it. I can pretty much send it anywhere in the continental US, send it to Canada, send it to the UK. I'm pretty sure I can post it wherever, as long as I've got the address. That should be perfect. And by all means, feel free to shoot a question with it as well if you'd like. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back next week. Yeah, have a good rest of your day. Stay cool out there, or stay warm, depending on which hemisphere you're in. Bye-bye.